allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business to be approved of minutes. One question I had would be number 18, set upon the recommendation of county attorney move to approve payment. I think did not we hold that till, okay.
Yes, till I got some information from.
Mayor Petrus' motion was tabled.
That'd be fine, I mean,
It's at the end.
oh yeah, it does, I'm sorry. My apologies. Didn't believe it goes through, okay. Well, other than that, that's all I have.
I'll move.
Jesse's moved,
All second?
Tim
Can
seconded.
I ask a question? Do you want to do both minutes there, Monday and Wednesday? There's 2 sets.
There is 2 sets. My apologies. So let's, we'll just go ahead and do the February 22nd one. Jesse moved, Tim seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. So now Wednesday, February 24th, David did checks and vouchers. The motion,
I'll make that motion.
Tim has moved,
Second.
Jesse seconded, all in favor.
Aye.
That being said, we have Rhonda from the Housing Authority in line here.
Trying to. Starlee Patch, he came into our office and asked if he would be willing to come and see if we could get landlord fees waived. The property used to be 325 Hudson here in Burlington, but he combined it with all this property because he has his house and a little house and then this one. This one's right on 75, so everybody sees it. It definitely needs to come down. I had looked at it a few years ago and it needed to come down at that time. So 311 Hudson is probably the correct address, but it is linked to everything else. But I think you guys kind of probably know behind across the borders and everything. And Mr. Smith is going to be doing the actual demo of it. So we just wanted to know if we could waive landfill fees.
In my district, I don't have a problem with it at all.
It looks like it probably needs to come.
Yes.
It's needed to come down for a few years since. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jeremy,
Good morning.
good morning.
Good morning.
See everybody today. Just a couple of quick updates on what's going on at the hospital over the last couple of weeks and upcoming weeks. This week we started our fiscal 2020 financial audit. Usually that takes about 5 days. Typically it's an in-house audit, but with everything going on, we're doing virtual audits right now. And so our CFO, Juanita, is sending our auditors, which is BKD, all the information that they need. So as soon as we are able to wrap up our financial audit, then we'll be able to start our annual cost report, which will allow us to know whether we're going to owe any money back to Medicare or be able to receive any receivables back for the fiscal year 2020. Wanted to give a brief update on both the Sunset Manor and our Meadows. Census is down pretty much due to people not wanting to admit right now with no visitation. We're hoping that as things continue to progress, we're able to do at least the window visits and plexiglass visits, those types of things that will able to enable people to have a little bit of satisfaction in knowing that They're gonna be able to visit their family and their loved ones as they bring them over to our facilities. We've opened up some of the visitation at the hospital as well, so allowing some limited visitation for hospital patients. A little bit short-staffed on our nursing right now. I think some of the nurses have gone out and tested the waters with contract agencies, so we're kind of dealing with that. We're hopeful that as people's censuses slow down, then the nurses will start to filter back into the small communities again. But the money's to be had out there on the agency circuit right now, so that seems to be where some of the people are going. And then this week we started doing testing for the power plant for COVID, for all of the outage workers that are starting to come in. I think we did 35 this morning and planning on doing about 50 until over the next 5 weeks. So doing about 50 a day. So they're doing that. They're at the hospital on the south side where the conference entrance is, and Stacy and Melissa, they're at the hospital helping with those and running those. And then I know Lindsay helped get us some of the tests that they had on hand, and then we had some free ones that we had there at the hospital that we were able to use. So being able to keep our costs for the power plant pretty reasonable, since a lot of the testing supplies were cheap or free. So.
Is that the rapid testing?
Yeah, we're doing mostly all rapid, so that way that allows them to know before they go out there whether they're positive or not. Pull them off right away.
I had another question. The nursing homes like Sunset, and everything, has all the residents in there been back? Have they all been back?
All but one that had refused had been.
So you're still limiting visitation to the ones that have been?
Yeah, right now, we're kind of just continuing to follow like the KDHE guidelines, but we're starting to see a glimmer of hope that they're loosening those things up. So probably gonna, just the same way that we got here, we'll probably reverse the same way where they'll start allowing the plexiglass visits again. And if as long as we don't have any staff that test positive or residents that test positive, then we're allowed to start having some of those visitations with like the plexiglass and things.
What's the percentages of staff that got vaccinated? Do you have that?
Overall, it's been running about 60%, yeah, which is from what I've heard about typical for the other healthcare facilities. And there are a lot of people in there, that 40% that haven't had it yet, that are still thinking about getting it. They just wanted to pass on this first go around. So we're hopeful that we'll still be able to have some to go around, and they won't have to wait for their age group to be able to get it in the public. But KDHE did say that as we have healthcare workers, because we're obviously going to hire people in between, January and whenever the time comes, that we can still vaccinate people. And so the state has asked that we let them know, and they'll either figure out how to get us more vaccine or schedule with another facility that might have extra vaccines so that they can get them.
Can a person require new hires to be vaccinated before hired?
I guess somebody could require that. It's not being recommended to, though. So we're kind of going off of recommendations, just because I think the legal ramifications of requiring that might be a nightmare. Yeah.
I know the people in them homes would be like to see their families as soon as possible.
Exactly.
Do more good than anything.
Yes, I think so too.
So if, when you open up where families can come in, will you rapid test the people coming in to visit before you let them in, or?
I mean, I think that would be a good idea, assuming that the testing supplies are available, then that's probably what we would end up doing. Right now, we're pretty much rapid testing staff in the mornings before they come in, that way we know. And we've got a couple of that way and then we'll typically go ahead and send off for a PCR test just to make sure that it was accurate, because sometimes those aren't as accurate on the rapids, but.
How quick for the results on the rapid?
Pretty much 30, 45 minutes, yeah. And by the time they get them, just depends on, there's several rapid tests out there. So, some of them doing them in 15 minutes and some of them take 30 or 45 minutes.
A couple of questions. You
Yeah.
mentioned your audit, and I've seen last year's audit, the last three, but you mentioned in-house.
Uh-huh.
Your audit technically done by an outside firm, isn't it?
Yes,
CPA firm?
correct.
Okay.
And when I said in-house, I
So,
meant,
what-
them coming physically
Okay, so
here.
you're still, okay.
Yeah, BKD is the company.
And so I didn't think an in-house audit would qualify for what
Yeah,
you need to jump through.
yeah.
Have you applied for the new PPP program, or have you heard anything?
We haven't applied for the new one, and if we are qualified for it, then we would apply.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's still time to apply for that, for businesses?
I'm not sure. I can check
I
though.
was thinking there was a timeline on that coming
Yeah.
up pretty quick, but
It should.
Yeah, and I was thinking that there was, some things that disqualified us from, being able to take out that one, but I'll check with Juanita. She's usually pretty on top of those things from a
I know the
CPA standpoint.
ethanol plant at Garnett, they received word here a month ago that they'd already been approved.
Which facility is it? The
With the
hospital,
new- With the new PPP program.
the hospital there in Garnett?
I'm sorry,
The hospital,
ethanol plant.
ethanol.
They
Yeah.
received word over a month ago, they'd
Yeah.
already been approved. And I
Yeah,
know the timeline, I'm not sure the time date.
Yeah.
I think it's coming up pretty quick. I would think you qualified.
I didn't know the bill had completely left.
I'm sorry?
I didn't know the bill had been approved yet for that.
The ethanol plant at Garnett's been approved, so that's all I know.
Well, I
This was
received the
still
letter.
the old. This is money that was under the Trump administration.
Okay, all right, fine.
I don't know all the details. Okay.
I know about a month ago is when we got word that our first round of PPP was, completely forgiven, so. And that was about 2.7. I think that, I gave that report the last time. Any other questions?
All right. Anybody else?
I'll check on that, Don.
Thank
All right, thank you,
Thanks for
guys.
coming in.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Chairman. There's no identification on what that's for.
How are you this morning, Bobby? Are you planning on being here for the entire meeting?
No, sir.
No? Okay, I have a few minutes here. I'll get to you next, Amanda. You wanna come on up?
Yes, sir.
I'm sure everybody else met Bobby at the interview for economic development, but he's in town and ready to go to work, and we did a little bit of a meet and greet last Thursday with a few people in the courthouse and like that, and I just want everybody to know Bobby Skipper's here and ready to go to work.
Yes, sir.
So, with that being said, I know we said March 8th. I know we gotta get Donna moved and this and that and the other, but I will have the Southeast Kansas Regional Planning Board meeting Thursday in Chanute. And personally, I don't know what you all think, but I wouldn't mind Bobby sitting in that position as opposed to me. So, don't think about it. I'm thinking to see if there's a little bit of a problem if he kind of work over maybe Rhonda's shoulder, if you will, till we get Donna moved and starting a little bit earlier than March 8th, if that's.
Oh, he's here. I don't know why he couldn't start March 1st. I mean, I don't know what his plans are. He's gonna be going somewhere Thursday, right?
That's today.
Yeah, today.
Yeah, but I mean, I know with the storm we had, everything, that 1 week, I didn't get much opportunity to speak with everybody. That's why I put him off till March 8th, to get some breathing room and get Donna moved and this, that, and the other. So, I mean, he doesn't really officially have an office, but he has a place he can go to, kind of get acquainted and started. And like I say, I wouldn't mind at all if he sat on that board as opposed to me, just,
Myself, I think that'd be a plus for him to be.
oh, yeah,
Getting more acquainted with what's in Southeast Kansas and Eastern Kansas. I
exactly.
think it'd be a huge plus to have. I've asked you once before, you like to go with Bob, Bobby, or what do you like to be called?
Bobby.
Bobby?
Yes, sir.
I was thinking that was your answer here a month ago, but
I'm-
welcome, totally welcome aboard.
Thank you so much.
Looking forward to the opportunity for what you can do for this county.
I'm very, I'm ready. I'm wired up. I'm caged up. I'm ready to be let out. But, the community has just been amazing. The people are, wow, what an asset. They are just amazing. I hadn't seen or heard even a hint of unkindness. It's just wonderful. The thing I'm really ready to dive into is that assessment we spoke about, and I'll move forward with that. That's the biggest piece for me to the greater puzzle, is having the assessment done and discussed with the commissioners. And in addition to anything that you gentlemen consider here forward, I would like to schedule meetings or just personal time with each of the commissioners alone, over a cup of coffee in the morning at your discretion, whichever is good for you. So if you would keep that in mind, and over the next week or two, I'd like to get up with you.
So basically, you've been given approval to do, you think you can get done this week until we get Donna moved? And
Oh, yes,
Get you in a
whenever
visual
y'all are
office.
ready.
we're ready, it sounds like. So like I say, I'll get up with you on the meeting for Thursday, go down with you and introduce you there. If you get you acquainted with that one, and then that you can get up with Rhonda down there and get started.
Yes, sir. And I'll get with Ms. Donna then.
And you'll have to get up with payroll upstairs, so.
Yeah, I can get some stuff gathered up for you, and I still need a copy of that one.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Welcome
you.
aboard.
Welcome.
Good luck. Thank you, Amanda.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Amanda, if you want to take your mask off when you're speaking, that'll be fine. Some of us are a little bit harder of hearing, and sometimes the mask. How you doing? It's totally up to you, whatever you're comfortable with.
I want you to hear me.
Well, that's the reason we're not wearing ours. I had a few people comment that they really couldn't hear us on
We're maintaining
YouTube
our
for the
distance,
meeting,
so.
so
Thank you.
YouTube.
Well, I'm Amanda Cunningham. I'm the CEO at Crosswinds Counseling and Wellness. We're a community mental health center. There's a couple new faces. So I don't have anything on my agenda today. It's more to just come in, kind of go over the documents I gave you, but really just talk about how we run as a business, to make sure that there's not any needs in the community that don't need addressed. So we'll just walk through the document, and if you have questions, let me know. The letter is more just about our business model. So one thing, I'm fairly new to my position still. One thing I noticed with the COVID, and you were talking about PPP, and there's all the spark money out there, is that maybe some of the counties didn't quite understand the makeup of our business. And so it just raised some questions and made me realize that I needed to do a better job of explaining that. And so we are a nonprofit. We cover the 7 counties, basically an hour radius around Emporia. And we are primarily over 70% made up of our service fees that we acquire for services. And so then you can see the breakdown on that letter of how much we get from the state for grants that we serve the underinsured with, and then what the county appropriations come out to as well. So we are a private entity, we're not governmental. This year we're going to be increasing our budget to just a little over $9 million, which it hasn't been at that rate for quite some time, so we're pretty excited about that. We are growing, definitely, and that shows in that budget, but we employ about 175 people. Usually census goes up in the summer when we have some summer programming for kids, so you can see that those numbers rise as well. But I just want to kind of review some of that and make sure there aren't any questions about how that runs. We just had comments about we can go raise more money, you can do these sorts of things, and it really was in the services. And we got hit hard, just like every other small business and other business entities with COVID and the pandemic. So we did take advantage of anything that we could. If you read the card, it's our highlights of 2020, even though the pandemic, was interrupted, for lack of a better word. But one of those things, we did hire a CFO, Sherry Knight. So she started in March, basically the week we sent our staff home for the stay-at-home fun. And so she got to learn a brand new job and really be one of the only few people in the office, and she learned through the PPP and the Spark process. So we did apply for the first round. We were granted that and don't have to pay any back. And we also applied for the second. One of the qualifications is you had to have a quarter where you were down 25% in revenue, and we did match that. So we've been granted that. I don't know if we've been totally forgiven at 100% yet, but we have been taking every opportunity. And when I come to pass, that's one of the big things that's been our focus, is how to make sure that we're running a good business and not just being a service provider and providing good services as well. And so we really are trying to figure out ways to be self-sustainable and not dependent on a state and county appropriations, because everything is, needs some of those assistance, and we can always count on. So we're really trying to do things. So we were still able to have our fundraiser that we have annually. We did host it virtually, and it still went very well. We did a campaign for the first time this year, and I did a couple of other events as well. With that PPP, if we hadn't taken advantage of those things, we would have been down about $1.3 million for the year. And so we were very appreciative. Coffee County gave us some of the Spark money. And thank you for the appropriation as well for 2021. So we just want our partners to know that we're appreciative and couldn't do it without that assistance. We were able to still provide all services even when we were at stay-at-home, so we just moved everything virtual. We had some things that have to require face-to-face. We have a group home in Emporia. We do some med monitoring where we go to people's homes to make sure they're taking their meds in a safe manner, and some crisis-type services. But other than that, we did move everything virtual, and we continue to operate services as much as normal as we can. So we feel very proud of what we were able to do despite the pandemic. We are seeing increases. Now, in December, we had our highest amount of intakes compared to the last 5 years. So we know that we'll continue to see those rising numbers. Our challenges with that is just finding staff to fulfill those needs. The professional staff that have to have a master's degree in licensure is very difficult to find. It's a national problem, it's a state problem, and it's a Crosswinds problem.
We credit that rise to the COVID pandemic.
I would some. I mean, what we've seen nationally, just like the COVID pandemic itself, it came from the coast and came in, a little bit later than what they saw that hit. We're seeing that with mental health too. There's lots of research out there showing that people are more impacted with the COVID and the pandemic, and that suicides have increased in some areas as well. So we're really trying to make sure that we are staying ahead of that.
How about with minor school kids?
Yeah, there's lots of research on kids and, kids that haven't been in school, kids that aren't doing activities, things like that. There's definitely, I think in our areas, we've done pretty well at continuing to at least have some opportunity, whether they're going to school full-time or not, or they're still out in sports and things. So we probably aren't feeling that as much as some of the, larger areas and states around us.
Do you have stats on, it's sad, the deaths from COVID as it sits now. A lot of people need to be aware that it has affected a lot of people mentally.
Yes.
So are there stats on the suicide rates of where they were as opposed to where they're at now?
Usually they're a couple of years behind to show that, but they are showing that it's higher. Not in our areas per se. We haven't, some areas have seen that, some of our colleagues, we haven't. But like Johnson County also has initiated a lot of suicide prevention, and so their numbers are actually down. So I think it just depends on the area and the resources that are available.
And I said domestic abuse is up as well.
Yeah, I think there's probably for our area.
Actually escalated just with the pandemic, not deaths alone, but everything.
Yeah, I think in our area, the domestic violence, child abuse, things that when people are at home and not getting out, they're not seeing them, schools a lot of times be a second set of eyes, even our mental health professionals, when we're going in the homes or taking them for appointments or seeing individuals, and all that moves virtual. It's hard to see some of those things, although there's some positives too. So some people say, we weren't getting in the home, so now I can see their home behind them in the Zoom, and so we can have a different picture as well. But yeah, there's lots of things that we need to get back out and going and hopefully get people well. So.
Exactly.
On your card is also a list of board members, so I would just like to point that out. Carl's in the room, he's been a board member of ours. He is no longer, but he will still remain an advocate and somebody that we count on to get some words in Coffee County. But we have applications online that people can fill out if anyone's ever interested or knows somebody that might be interested in serving on our board. And we'd love to have.
Do you still serve Chase County?
Yes.
I noticed you didn't have any board members from Chase
We
County.
don't, and I was just there last week and asked them the same thing, and they scribbled furiously and sounded like they might have a couple people, which would be great. It's just hard to find that representation for some reason. We're hoping to have some. The only other thing I would ask is just, if you see needs or hear things, or there are programs you're aware of or want to talk about what we do, I've included my business card as well, but just call me, shoot me an email. We want to make sure that we are meeting the needs of Coffee County. We do have a focus group that's continuing to meet off and on. Everything kind of slowed down with the pandemic. And we work with Lindsay. She has a group that meets at times too. And so whenever we coordinate with her when those meetings happen, we do have staff that are dedicated to Coffee County that really work with the community partners and talk with them regularly and make sure we're meeting those needs and working together. So, other questions?
You have met our new sheriff that you will be meeting with?
Yes.
Okay.
He's behind the pole.
I just have something from the county attorney side, that maybe you could briefly talk about or explain how COVID has impacted the care and treatment side of things, and what you are doing, at least locally, and now how you tap into, I'm not sure exactly what they're called, but the televideo, because I think that locally, the board and maybe the community needs to be aware that those services are being provided, but how that works.
Sure. And we've been doing that for a handful of years, but all of our after hours, weekend services, and sometimes day services are for emergency services done through televideo. We contract with another provider. It kind of goes back to that, what I said earlier about having a difficult time finding that level of care. And when you start talking emergency services and overnights and weekends, the pool shrinks even farther. And so we do contract with a provider called HIS out of Topeka. They also have licensed providers. They're just an extension of us. And so we've worked through that over the years. Hospital has their information, Sheriff's Department, Police Department, that they can access them directly. So with the care and treatment are where individuals are screened through mental health reasons to go to the state hospital involuntarily. So you're taking rights away. So there's a lot of rules around that. That usually is what causes the most frustration in the community, is a very sick individual needs to go to a state hospital and our resources are not good. So the state hospital for us is Osawatomie. They often have a wait time. They're on a moratorium, all kinds of issues and concerns. And so it leaves a lot of pressure for jails and hospitals and community mental health centers to figure out how to care for those individuals. Through my tenure, I've been in the business for about 20 years, but over the last few years, hospitals have had more pressure in the sense of EMTALA and how they can't release people, so they're sitting in ERs or hospital beds until they're ready. And so based on what the community has and what their needs are, we try to offer support as we can. Our services aren't always allowed in the hospital, or they're not. They can't come out and allow us to provide for them. They house in jails as well. And so that's a part of those social groups we're working with, is try to figure out how we fill those gaps and make sure we're not zapping all of our resources at the same time. about that.
Yeah, and there's a difference between involuntary commitment and voluntary, and then how the two sort of interplay with each other. And then you could also maybe just talk about another service is competency determinations, at least on the court side, which is something that happens frequently in criminal cases. And
Are you having to use Larned for that? Or-
well, there has to be a local determination made and then to law.
So voluntary hospitalization is when, and for any hospitalization, a person has to be a threat to themselves or others. So a direct statement of I'm going to complete suicide or attempt or homicide. Self-care failure is also another reason. But on the voluntary side, somebody with insurance, somebody who's willing to go, can go to any hospital and get an assessment direct from them versus having to go through the community mental health center, because they used to have to do that. When someone's in jail and they're doing a competency eval, we have clinicians that can do that competency evaluation by either going to the jail. Right now with COVID, we've been doing televideo assessments, and then a lot of times they have to get another evaluation through Larned, which is another really long wait, sometimes months, which really impacts the legal system that's involved. There's a lot of hoops, there's a lot of changes, it's constantly having push and pull on different things. The state entities, there's one of the legislative things is to combine the entities, and before SRS kind of housed all of our licensing and have an oversight and audits and things, and now it's we have to work with KDHE as well as KDADS, and so everybody has different rules. We're real close with the school system, so we also work with the state school system to meet their needs as well.
Anybody else have any questions?
I can talk a long time, so I'm sorry.
Just want to make
There's
sure
a
you're
lot to talk
done,
about.
make sure you're done talking, I guess.
Yeah, no, just want to make sure we're meeting the needs of Coffee County, and if you know how to get a hold of me if something comes up.
We know where they're at, we need to get hold of them. We see their vehicle all the time, so appreciate what you do.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Appreciate it.
There's a statement.
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning, Carl.
So far, this is my first 30 days on the job. So far, the transition's been great. Everybody in the courthouse has been good. The staff has been great. And I want to thank you again for the opportunity to work with you. I want to go through some things, give you some bullet pointed highlights, but there's some things I want to add along the way. That underneath the routine update presidential database, that card we received back comes out with Wolf Creek calendar. And Wolf Creek calendar is our basic guide to the citizens of Coffee County. If you ever have something happen at Wolf Creek, that's also listed on Wolf Creek's website. This week is the Severe Weather Awareness Week, March 1 through the 5th. State tornado drills tomorrow, 10 a.m. It'll be all the sirens that'll be up and running. And that this year, the storm spotter training is occurring virtually. And we've sent all this information out to our community partners. Another thing I wanted to make sure and mention to you is that we had a webinar with Wolf Creek on the Coffee County for evacuation time estimate study. And that's to, if we had evacuated subzone, whether we send them to get an estimate time on what it would take to get into the Woods and Canada line. We've continued the radio project, and Courtney Bartley's work with all of our emergency response partners within the county, get radios updated and even within our dispatch. And that's, you guys have any questions?
I don't have anything, I don't think. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. I wanted to make sure and let Don know that February 23rd, Lakeview Drainage District did have a phone meeting with FEMA but I wasn't able to attend that meeting. So anyway, I'll be back in touch with Greg Galoo and see how.
I haven't talked to Greg since that date. I don't know what transpired at that meeting, but at least there's something in place that's moving forward.
Yes,
That's
that
all
was
we
the,
can- That's all we can ask for at this time.
right, and that was the first phone call to start the process.
I'm sorry.
That was the first phone call to start the process.
Yeah.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Tony? I don't have a question on this. Anybody?
When I was going through these,
Yeah, he's got a copy of it.
going through these receipts, the one for 1770 didn't have any documentation on what it was for. So I just thought I'd ask it. I'm sure things are fine, but we couldn't identify what it's for.
Yeah, just, didn't mark on it. So for our MDTs, I think I've spoken before, one of the projects, for me as the new sheriff was to initiate MDTs, mobile data terminals, that the prior administration had purchased. And, once we started getting those up and running, realized that some things had not been purchased. One of them is an external antenna that has to go onto our vehicles to give us connectivity. And this is part of the antenna purchase that had to be made. So I think there were 3 additional ones that probably haven't been billed yet, but this is the bulk of the antenna purchases that were made.
That clarified, because there's 15 of them at $118 a piece, 1770, but there wasn't any clarification on what
Yeah,
it
it
was.
should have wrote on there antenna purchase. We knew what our Arcadian was, but yeah, my fault for that, so I should have clarified that as well. Any other questions?
That was it.
I'll go back to work now.
Thanks for that clarification.
Thank you very
Have
much.
a good one.
See you later.
Matt?
Well, it's been a while, man.
It has been a while. It's good to see you guys too.
Matt, do you know Jesse?
I don't, I was gonna talk about that. So I've met most of the commissioners. I routinely come to the meetings before pandemic. I'm the emergency manager for Wolf Creek. So I work with Carl and I come here to kind of be entwined with the community.
Or probably even Tim, just Tim.
I haven't met Matt.
Tim Johnson from the Waverly area.
So nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you.
Look forward to working with you. Today, I just kind of wanted to come in and give the commissioners an idea of what's going on with the outage that's coming up. So the outage starts March 25th, and we started in processing people last week, the big groups. We're looking at about 50 people per day, and we had the discussion, you guys had the discussion earlier here with the Coffee County Hospital. They're doing the rapid testing for us, so we're providing that free of charge to all the contractors that are coming in. And before they can come on site and get their unrestricted access, they have to basically be COVID negative. So we wanted to make sure that all the people that we're bringing in the community are healthy and they're not going to risk the spread. And while they're on site, they're going to be adhering to our COVID protocol, which is masks anytime you can't maintain 6 feet in common areas, as well as we've got plexiglass covers, separators all over the place, and we're providing them all the PPE they need. But I'd expect the bulk of the people to come in over the next month. I believe we've got 5 weeks of testing that are set up for those personnel as they're coming in. But I just wanted to give you guys, if you had any questions about the outage coming up, an opportunity to ask.
How long is the outage gonna be?
It's about 45 to 50 days typically, if nothing adverse as far as work goes. I mean, there's some pretty significant projects that we go into every outage, so time management goes into that pretty significantly.
How many people are we talking about, just so the public?
We're looking at 700 people additional. That can fluctuate depending on any additional contract needs that might come up, but 700 is a pretty good number. And you'll start seeing, typically they bring in, most of them bring in campers and live in those areas, but they also fill up the hotel, and a lot of people rent out rooms throughout that time frame.
Has there ever been a study to show what that value brings to the county? Because that's gonna be a huge value for.
I don't know if we've
Restaurants
done
and-
one here, but I know some of the other power plants, say like in Illinois, that have come close to shutting down or have shut down, have done studies on the financial impact of that time frame during outage that those people bring in. I'm not sure we have one for Wolf Creek in this area, but yeah, I mean, you're talking, and it used to be a lot higher numbers than 700. I would imagine we were into the 1,000 plus several years back, but for 4 to 6 weeks at a time, that's a significant increase. And we actually credit that in our evacuation time estimate study that Carl had talked about. We just had a kickoff fund, so that's our significant event in the area. We look at the max number of people that are in the county at one time, and so that's the time that we credit.
Just a meal a day, 700 people. I mean, that's not counting motels.
It'd be good, I just know what that value would be,
You bet.
bring it back to the county and make it public. I've never seen it, I've never seen that.
I'm sure the numbers is
I'm
probably.
sure the numbers are available.
I'm sure it's available. It'll blow your mind.
That'd be definitely a positive.
Yes, absolutely. Any additional questions?
Not for me.
No, I don't.
All right. I know you guys can get a hold of me. Carl knows how to get a hold of me. If you guys have any additional questions.
Do you have any projected date for training?
For drills,
Yes.
we do. I can get those to you. I believe the combined participation isn't until September timeframe.
September, October.
But we actually have a drill tomorrow that we're doing. But with the state of Kansas, participation is very limited, if to none, at this time due to COVID. So we do have combined participation scheduled, and we still have the evaluated exercise tentatively scheduled for November, pending any FEMA exemptions. So we'll do a pre-exercise later in the year as well to prepare for that.
Anybody else?
Thanks for the update, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Welcome.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you guys too.
Goes off to Wayne.
All right. Good morning.
Morning.
I'm glad Matt hung around, so I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about Wolf Creek and Road Bridge. So at this point, anytime that Wolf Creek has an emergency, I feel that I have the authority to basically exercise any use of equipment or material to assist Wolf Creek. Anytime you guys say, hey, we have an emergency, we need help, we basically give full resources. But unless you basically change something, anytime basically it's non-emergency, say we're needing repairs at the Wolf Creek Lake, or we're needing salt or different things like that, I don't have authority unless I go to the commission. So basically I can't outright sell anything, nor can I basically outright perform any activity beyond road and bridge that is non-emergency. And so that would be just clarification for anybody to come up. Yes, we have it, but I can't sell it. I have no authority. So I'd come back to the commission at that point. So Bob, you're one to chime in.
To clarify that, in an emergency, you really don't have the authority until it goes through emergency management and they request it from you.
That is true. That is true. Basically, when it comes down to the actual emergency per se, there is those steps, and I would back up one, and I would wonder if you would research that one and say, does not the sheriff actually have first authority? And then from that, it goes to emergency manager. Does not the boots on the ground basically have the first authority? I would just ask you to research that one. I'm not taking away anything from Carl as far as emergency manager.
That would depend on throughout the situation and when it came up, who actually has the authority. Yes, the sheriff has that authority, but
At first,
once the EOC is put in place and if Carl
then
is,
emergency management.
Carl is in charge.
Then after that, then the commission kind of comes in. So there is kind of a pecking order with that, but I think the first boots on the ground is actually the sheriff. But you're right, there is a pecking order. All of those things, I would have to get authority to be able to exercise any type of.
Carl's going to explain it to you
approval
right
on
here.
that.
We just want to emphasize the point, it depends on what the situation is. Such if it's something that involves a sand line, when something runs off the road and they need equipment to assist repairing something like along a bridge or something of that nature, it's exactly right. Then it would go to that small incident. But if we're talking about something in which there's been a local state of disaster declared, and it comes to my office, we make it, ventures the way up through the system.
Right.
I just wanted to declare it's incident specific.
Now, does not the sheriff also in the EOC, until the commission actually convenes as a board, does not the sheriff then make the decisions on behalf of the county?
What I did, the sheriff and sub-commission, then there's a local, say, disaster declared.
Mm-hmm.
He will have, I coordinate it, meaning getting the resources and things necessary to attach it. Tom may have that authority. I need to look that up.
Okay.
He may.
That's what I'm thinking, the sheriff still has authority until the commission convenes.
Until there's a local state of disaster.
Right.
Because that's when all aspects of the county come into play. Now, if it's just an incident, like you're saying, a short incident in which Tom is on scene or the sheriff's on scene, in which they need some sort of assistance from a bridge, you're exactly right.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because the EOC is my priority.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And we run it.
Right. So just basically some clarification, because there has been a couple requests on a few things that you would think would be simple, meaning that, hey, I can sell salt and different things like that, but I don't feel I have the authority unless I go through the commission. Now, there was one where we were in the snow and ice events, basically, and we had the frigid temperatures. At that point, somebody had called and asked if we had salt available. At that point, I felt through the weather conditions that I would have authority and I could report back to the commission at that point and make those. But they had enough salt at that time, so we didn't have to do anything. There wasn't nothing to assist. So just clarification, just some discussion. Okay. So I have a couple of motions, and then I have also construction zone. But before I go into motions, actually, I'd like to just do some correspondence first, because I think the motions will have some discussion. So no road permits, no zoning permits, landfill, and then the two motions. So I'd like to, as I say, just jump right on into correspondence first. This would be information. So information, we have what we call a reclaimer. Think of it as like a big tiller. Okay, so it's able to chop up the ground. We use it for the landfill cell when we're basically going through building cell number 4. We also use it when we're basically taking a chip seal road, not an asphalt road, but a chip seal road. We'll basically regrind it, or a gravel road where we're needing to regrind, recompact, and remoisture. This is the equipment that we use. The clutch assembly went out, and so the parts, it's a sole source, the Caterpillar, and so at this point, we expect just under $10,000. So just a heads up, that's going to be coming when we basically get the bill. We'll be moving forward with that. Then the next one is, this is our distributor truck. So this is the one that we use for our chip seal oil, our fog seal oil, our tack, different things like that. And so, as you know, here last year, we had some problems with some of the oil. And this would be some of the discussion I'd like to lead into as well, is some of the problems that we had to send back basically tankers. You're probably aware of that, where we had to send back tankers of oil, such as that, because it was just basically clogging up the cone that we have in the distributor. And so with all of that being said, the hoses and everything else just kind of plugged up. And so we needed to have it thoroughly cleaned. And the distributor cost us, at this point, we're looking around $10,280, get it totally cleaned out. And so this is more extensive cleaning than what we've had in the past. But we'll be doing that. That's also a sole source for Van Keppel, is doing basically the cleaning of the distributor truck. So just information there. The conversation I'd like to have is when we do, which we're in the process of, is actually collecting bids for our chip seal oil. You will find we only have, for the most part, that we have been using for the last several years, only 2 suppliers. And these two suppliers actually come in within a couple cents for the most of the time per gallon. So one is we're going to have a visit with them and let them know that basically these were our problems that we had. But also too is to bring in light that maybe low bid might not necessarily be best bid. If we're spending all this additional cost basically with our equipment, also lost of time. Keep in mind that you had 12 folks out there and equipment, and we're not getting work done.
Can they be held accountable for that?
That's what I was gonna ask.
Because they cost us $10,000 to go through all the process of maintenance, why can't they be held accountable for that? Because we know exactly what caused it.
Well, that could be always claimed, but then they can come back and actually say, was it, you know, their material, okay? We don't really know. There would have to be a lot of discovery that would go into it to actually say that they would be liable for it.
Did they cause any issues like this in other counties?
That we're not for sure, but, and I hate to stand here at this point and say what I think the cause was, but I would definitely say that it was the material that was being shipped to us and loaded in our distributor that caused the problem. Now, did it happen at the point of a pickup, or did it happen at the transportation? We don't know. And that's the problem with that. I would be like you, Don, would be to say that, you know, somebody's responsible or liable for it.
Somebody's got to be held liable.
It'd take a lot of discovery to figure
It'd take a lot of discovery.
That's where you would be at, that 10.
You'd be years.
And you could get tied up pretty quick onto it.
I don't see how, I don't,
Is there a certain temperature that oil's supposed to be when it arrives at your distributor?
It's over 200 and some degrees, but what you have is, what causes it to globulate. That's what causes basically the blocking of the cone is the globulation. So now what you're looking at is what they call cationic and anionic type oils. So it's a positive charge and negative charge oils that when they mix, they globulate. That's basically what, you know, the simplest term. Now, how that happens, either one, it's from the tank that they filled up, that the tank may not have been, this be the tank at the yard, that may not have been thoroughly cleaned, or it could have been the tank of the transportation. And so you just don't really know. That's the discovery that you'd have to come up with, is what is the point of the oil? Is it one, is it here, is it their responsibility, or two, is it the trucking responsibility that's paid by the same supplier? You just don't really know. The point more than anything is to say that we've had problems with one supplier or another. We've had more problems with one supplier than we've had with another. Then you have to say, okay, what is best bid versus low bid? And that's what I just wanted to bring up as the point is that when we have these, and I'm going to have this discussion with these suppliers and let them know that, you know, you cost us this, but don't think.
You'd have to put it into a contract.
Yeah.
To get that accomplished.
To basically accomplish, this is what you're going to be back charged per se. That's exactly right. But up front, mine is to put them on notice, is to say that when we're reflecting or looking at these bids, you know, these are the problems that we've had last year. We'd sure like to get this corrected.
We're already aware of it because you shipped back 4 or 5 loads.
Yeah.
They're totally aware of it.
Yes.
So they know they need to get their act cleaned up.
The left hand might know what the
Play
right
with
hand.
birds.
You're absolutely right, Don.
Probably.
You're absolutely right.
You're running the same thing in the concrete industry. I mean, same but different. I don't know how else to describe it, so.
So, I mean, you can get material on the job site that doesn't meet your specifications and you're left with it. Yeah, how do you do it?
So are we checking this material before it goes into our distributor to know that it's bad, or?
There's only one way to really check that, Bob, is to, there's no lab testing that, you know, that I can automatically have a test to say that it.
The first thing they're gonna say is, it's your tank problem.
Well, that's right.
So there you go with,
That's part of the discovery is to say that we have a problem.
There's probably no way to test that immediately.
This, one we have at 10:10, it's a phone conference, is that correct?
I'm actually here in person.
Oh, all right.
But we would have people on the phone maybe, or?
We're fine. Go ahead.
Okay, I just didn't want to, Wayne, to go over into.
No, that's fine. No, we're very
Okay.
flexible.
No offense.
Thank you,
but I
Chairman.
Sometimes he brings a little more to the table than what it says here, so.
Or he talks too much, that's what he's trying to say. So,
That's what it says, that's what it says here.
Wayne, yeah, put Wayne at the end, he talks too much. The city of Hartford, I have a letter here from the city of Hartford. And so the supervisor there for the city had actually called here last week and asked if they could purchase from us corrugated metal pipe, okay? Now, we can do this in county to our cities in county. And so we can do this because we have an interlocal agreement. So we can sell you in county, the cities, basically the pipe at the cost.
You're even thinking about that, you're setting yourself, or setting us up for something.
So mine would be out of county is to say,
All at once you want to compete with somebody selling Lyon County pipe, I don't think you want to go there.
okay, that's what I needed to bring up to the commission. If we don't want to sell anything to City of Hartford or anybody outside of our county, then that's why I just wanted to bring this up.
I just, that's my opinion. I saw where it was going right away. I apologize for interrupting, but
yeah,
I don't know what the rest of all you don't think, but.
I would have.
Lyon County can come up with their own pipe just like Coffee County does, so.
Right.
No offense to Lyon County.
And if I recall from the conversation, it's not to, put Lyon County, I didn't think that their county was selling it or something, or they didn't have it. They didn't have it. I think that was it.
Yeah,
That's the reason why it
don't
came
want to see
our
us
way.
wind up in a situation.
I agree. Okay, but I had to bring it forward. Those type of requests, I feel that I have to bring them forward. I can't just outright say no, I have to bring them forward.
Yeah.
So the next one is, just to let you know that we did get approval from the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, Bureau of Waste Management. Charlie Bowers, our engineer out of Chanute, has approved cell number 4. So, that's good. That means that basically we can start filling it up. So that's what we're going to do. Now, why is that so important? Because, you say, well, we're not there yet to actually need to fill it up. We need to fill it up to a point where we don't have that leachate keep coming into the landfill because it's an open area. And so that's the reason why we need to start filling a little bit in there. Okay. I did complete the application for the high-risk rural roads. I had actually 7 miles of Old Highway 50 that I submitted. This is for fiscal year 2023. So nothing's going to happen this year. So this is fiscal year 2023. So that means July or June, I believe June of 2022 is the fiscal year for 2023 for the state. So we may not know anything on this for a while.
So just thinking ahead somewhat, trying to anyway, your retirement is?
August of 2022.
Yeah, so I mean, there'll be documentation within the state where somewhere where
we should, if
your
we
predecessor, if you will, whatever, however, and whatever form that is, knows what's coming up. Is Jeff in tune to, Mr. Byer in tune to pretty much everything like you present today?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. I've That's good discussion because with that, I'm looking at just over a year. And I'm trying to actually get everybody on board because my success is going to be the success of the department to continue to run. And so I'm doing everything I can as department head to basically make that happen. I will need a decision from you at some point, some discussion, is to say, are you going to have an engineer or are you going to allow the road supervisor to be the department head? Because that's going to make a difference. That's going to make a difference of how basically I set up the department to continue to succeed.
I just don't want the paperwork that you put in to die off after you leave. I guess what I'm trying, I don't want to see happen, so.
Mm-hmm.
Something to think about, guys.
So that would be discussion I hope you would have, so you can help me basically help you.
Okay.
All right. Then moving into the motions that I would have, this would be to continue the discussion here last week, things to consider. I do have, this is our old organization chart. So the one that was current had been approved. This is the organization chart that, and this is the organization chart that was draft last week. Same one. So we have that one as well. Now, one thing that to restate again, and I don't know if Heidi's here. I think Heidi was going to be here for the FEMA. What this is doing is the new organization chart is actually taking the zoning administrator out of the road and bridge table organization. It places, once again, it would depend on how you would like to do it, but ultimately underneath the commission. And as Wade and I have discussed, the zoning administrator would still have access to both him and I, basically continue the zoning portion of it. This also moves the office manager to actually do the evaluations for two folks. This is the budgetary accounting coordinator and the payroll cost accounting clerk, which is part-time. Now, once again, I'd like to say I'm not creating the zoning administrator. What we're creating is actually a zoning administrator that would be full-time. Previously, the zoning administrator was half-time zoning administrator, then half-time cost accounting clerk. That's where it was in the department. That's what you see on the old chart is half and half. Now, we've had that discussion. I think you realize how much work that she puts towards zoning and how much time that's taking. That the recommendation is to make full-time zoning administrator. And then hopefully we would find a place within the courthouse because it just makes sense as far as logistics. When somebody comes in that they have to visit with emergency management for 911 addressing, they have to visit with the appraiser's office mapping, Kara, to get a map. If it's a brand new home, they would have to also visit with Maryland for sanitation. So you have all of these people already in the courthouse. Would you not also want the zoning administrator in the courthouse? I'd leave it up to you to find the space. The next thing on the table organization chart, as you see as well, is the assistant road and bridge supervisor is still underneath the road and bridge supervisor, underneath Jeff. But the assistant road and bridge supervisor would have basically evaluations. They would be in charge of two foremen. One would be assistant fleet, and then the other would be the blade crew or blade foreman. And so that's what you see on page 3. Those are the changes that you see. What this would do with my position, still current as county engineer, it would make 51 and a half instead of 52 employees. But you gain a full-time zoning administrator as far as overall in the county. So I'm available for questions on the organization chart.
So currently, your office manager and budget, accounting, and payroll all answer directly to you, correct?
On the old chart, that is correct.
Now, on the new one, two of them are gonna be answering to the office manager. Does that change the office manager's responsibility at all? Or should she still be doing identical what she's doing and just be responsible for those two?
Well, I'm glad you caught that, Don. Some of the discussion we had previously was, okay, how's gonna be the change when I retire? Mine is you have to have one person to basically go to. And so on this one is you have the office manager now going to the budgeting, which would be accountings, different things like that. And then also the cost accounting clerk. As before, I was basically involved working with all of them individually. But what I'm trying to do is to say now I have an office manager that actually is going to do what an office manager would normally do to basically put out the marching orders of the job or the task of the day. I mean, you have one go-to person. That's what I'm doing is saying, well, I'm going to have one go-to person instead of actually visiting with everybody. One go-to person, office manager, what's going on today, then allow them the opportunity to basically organize and get the product out of the office.
And why wouldn't you have done that a long time ago instead of waiting until just before you're ready to leave?
Well, that's a good question. And just basically the dynamics in my office is something that I've always worked with to try to get continuity within the office. And so in doing that before is to say, okay, by my involvement into all the little things that go on, basically is help to answer the questions. Now I give it to one person prior to that. See, the thing is I learned, I was probably late, but I've learned different times that sometimes there's a balloon or bubble that each department may have, but you have a different one that you have to manage me and other department heads. And you have other things that you're considering that I don't know. And I'm the same way. I'm like, okay, in my department, I have certain things that I have to manage. And so I know a lot to be able to pass on. What I'm trying to do is not to know that much, but to put that point back on my office manager or my road and bridge supervisor. And basically put those points. Now, keeping in mind too, oh, there's one other thing. You're going to find the engineer technician is also would be doing an evaluation of the survey tech too.
Well, there's
So
three
that
people in
was
that
that one.
department now, for us now too.
Yeah.
Is that person already in place?
Yes. Yes, that person's already in place.
Because your old one, you had two. Well, you got three now. You got the engineer tech plus survey tech two. There's two of them. So,
Yes.
you know, in the
Versus the survey
old one,
party
there's only
chief.
two people now.
No, there was always three. There was a survey party chief, an engineer technician, and a survey tech two, which was this copy here. On the left-hand side. And on this side, on this one is what you see is you see the engineer technician, and then you have the other two, survey tech two. Actually, there's two positions. So it's a downgrade.
You got survey party chief and a civil engineer tech. Those two are reporting directly to you, but now there's going to be three in the engineering department.
Well, you had on the old one, you had the survey party chief, you had the civil engineering tech, and then you had the survey tech. So there's three people.
On the old one?
Yes, sir.
There it is on this one that you gave us last week.
Well, that's the pictured one. I can't say what
There's
the
only
pictured
two
one is.
positions there. Last week.
Oh,
the one you passed out today's got three on.
Well, that one.
So this is different than what you gave us last week.
At this point, this was an old one.
Yeah.
Because that was in February of 2020.
That's what I studied all week or part of
Yeah.
last week.
So this would be the one that's.
So the old one just passed out is a current.
Yes, that was the one that was signed. I think what you're seeing on that one is that was just basically, it was more inter-office, because there's no signatures on that one. You asked for basically an organization chart. That was the only one I had available. last week. So, and it was a pictured one, so I'm needing faces with names. So that's how or why that one basically developed. But so with this one, on the old one is you see the survey party chief, the civil engineering technician, survey tech 2. What you see on this one is you have the civil engineering technician, no survey party chief. So you have a survey tech 2 and a survey tech 2. So I replaced one position, the survey party chief, with a survey tech 2. We talked about that last week as well, is we've advertised for a survey party chief. There was no applicants that basically met the qualifications, because once again, the qualifications is you need to be at the point which within 4 years you can take the land surveyor's test, okay? The previous employee prior to retirement had that. We did not get any applicants where basically somebody was prepped and ready to be able to take the land surveying exam within 4 years. So that's the reason why we're there. That passed my time? Oh, I'm a minute past my time.
And
Well, that's like the shop foreman. Now that
10 minutes.
the old one, the shop foreman
You want me
just
to sit
had
back?
passed out's got 3 mechanics. This, I wish I'd never seen this one she passed out last week.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to suggest this. We as a commission have not made any decisions yet what we're going to do with our zoning administrator and all this stuff. I'm going to recommend that we table this till we have came to a conclusion of what we actually want to do before we start just jumping in and passing something that someone's recommending. When it's real obvious right here that Don, kind of like me, he doesn't know where we're at. So I'm going to recommend we table this until we get ourselves figured out and together, and then we can discuss it and determine what route we want to go.
Yeah, it seems like there's not as much proposed changes as what we was looking back at the real old chart, so. I know you'd like to move ahead, but to me, with this brand new old chart is different than the one we had last week. I'd like to set tight a week and review it again. In 1 week, I don't think it'll make any difference here in you moving ahead.
No, that's fine. That's fine. It's just to continue to have the discussion. And as Bob indicated, it's really the discussion is zoning administrator goes full time. What you're going to do? I mean, that's a question that you have to be asking.
we had to find a place to house that individual first, so, with that being said, I agree on tabling it, just, let's move on.
Okay, the other one would be construction zone. And so construction zone, so just really, if you have any questions, we're continuing the maintenance, the work that is scheduled. This is scheduled that we've had in our 2021 construction book. And so we're continuing to work those projects and as weather allows. So I make that one real simple, Chairman.
Thank you, Wayne, for your.
Don, I'm sorry on the old chart, but that was a
That's what I
picture
was doing
one.
all the comparisons with. Now, your new proposal is almost identical to the old one.
Yeah.
That's been in place, so
That
I'd
was one,
like to look at it this week.
that one got drug out of the woodwork real quick, I think, just for talking for it, so,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right. Okay.
Does anybody need a break? Want a break, I should say? Okay, we'll go 10-minute break, I apologize.
It's my fault.
We've held you at bay a few times.
Thank you.
Yeah, for us.
How are you?
Yeah, there you go.
Good. Did you see my name on the plate?
Yes.
Okay. I was gonna say, am I supposed to know you?
You looked at me like, oh, it's not.
I mean, 'cause I I meet so many people here at a time, it's like you walk up and say, yeah, we said that, whatever, and I'm like, okay, I believe you.
No problem. I'm not sure. I mean, they didn't go there.
There's another.
Okay, actually, we got a test, Leah, can you speak?
Yep, I can hear you.
Right.
Can you speak?
You discussed it.
Quickly.
Yep, I can hear you, Carl.
Jim?
You know what that is?
Can you see the screen?
It's $2,500.
Am I sharing the screen?
I was that guardian
Yeah.
angel.
They're on a,
Sorry.
9-minute break.
Guardian angel.
Even though they went over long, they're gonna take a 10-minute, 9-minute break, so I'll let you know, but go ahead, go on.
GA,
YouTube,
that
about 9
one's-
minutes, we'll stop.
It's doing some study for us, isn't it?
No,
Thank you.
no, this is guardian angel. Yeah. It's I think organization, yeah. Is this one? It's some radio like that too.
Oh, you're doing the transmission lines.
Yes.
Awesome.
Thank
All right.
Good.
Retiring next year? Is that what I heard?
There's technically.
Yes.
on there.
August of 22.
Yes, well, that's, the keeper's 85. 85 points. You
So is that
retire
like age plus years of service then?
Yeah.
So you're 25 and you work for 55 years or?
That's it. It's been a long time. I mean, I've been pulling that, so I've been paying in that Social Security for a long time, yes. I don't know if I can outrun a 25-year-old, but I can outthink them.
You're not thinking, that's right. You've got way more sense.
Uh-oh, I'm gonna get on the YouTube now.
It stays live. Other people don't know. It varies.
Yeah, they don't go above 20 when I'm on there. I wasn't going there, but that's okay, Brad. Really make me feel good. Oh, yeah. That's an engineer recording. Gotta have a little humor in life.
Got a Michigan fan here. Got a Michigan fan here.
Good.
Yeah. You want to hit it now?
That only just comes across on the computer.
Yeah. What's that?
That only comes across on the computer.
No, no, I get it, when that's one thing the post office does deliver, is hate mail. About 15 different representatives.
She started? Really?
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
look at them, throw them in the trash.
Yeah.
I get probably 2 emails.
Did he,
You
get a hold of
It sounded like it's slowing Yeah, people need to stop saying.
Bob, here's the sheriff department. Inside the clip, there's one for $2,400. We're waiting for an estimation on it.
I did email an explanation for that.
I don't start sending them.
Brad, there's good batteries dead in this thing. My voice, I think my voice carries well enough, probably not a deal. I don't know why those batteries don't last about 4 or 5 years.
Everybody's back from their break. Thank you for your patience.
Well, good morning, Commissioners. My name is Carl Husling, and on behalf of Ameren Transmission, we're very excited to share about a transmission project that's going to be constructed in Coffee County. Before we get started, I'll allow the folks from Ameren to introduce themselves as well.
Good morning. This is Jim Johntree. I'm a project manager with Ameren. If you want to go ahead.
Hi, yes, I am Kim Rose, and I am Ameren's real estate manager. This is Leah Detman on the line. I'm with Stakeholder Relations.
Yes. Like I said, my name is Carl Husling. I live in Lawrence, Kansas, so it's much easier for me to come down and make this presentation than the folks from St. Louis. But I am a lifelong Kansas. Grew up in Mineola, Kansas, out there by Dodge City. So, and I've been in the electric utility industry going on 30 years. The first 15 was with Aquila United, that big investor-owned utility that's now part of Evergy, that was based in Kansas City. And then the last 15 years, I've kind of been on my own, starting a few companies that were specialized in building transmissions. So with that as a background, we'll go ahead and get started. So we're here today because the Southwest Power Pool, they were in the news last couple of weeks because they're the ones who created the situation that called for the rotating blackout. They're a nonprofit regional transmission organization that they're mandated by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, who's in charge of the transmission system throughout the whole United States, to oversee the bulk electric transmission system in Kansas. In roughly 2006, the state of Kansas mandated that all their utilities become part of the Southwest Power Pool. And so what is the Southwest Power Pool? They actually manage the 60,000 miles of transmission line that basically is part of 14 states. Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, all of Nebraska, all of Kansas, all of Oklahoma, a portion of New Mexico, a portion of Texas, a portion of Arkansas, and a portion of Missouri. So all 14 states, all 60,000 miles of transmission line that operates in those 14 states is overseen by this organization called the Southwest Power Pool. It consists of 100 members, including 16 investor-owned utilities. Evergy is a member of that. Oklahoma Gas and Electric, Nebraska Public Power District, entities like that are part of that, as well as diverse groups of generators, cooperatives, municipal utilities, and government agencies. And the city of Burlington is a member of the Kansas Power Pool. Kansas Power Pool is a member of the Southwest Power Pool. So they act as the air traffic controller of the energy grid across this territory. They operate it, and more importantly, they plan for it. Just like your county engineer does all the planning for the county, Southwest Power Pool does all the planning for the transmission grid for the state of Kansas. And part of that is they identify system limitations, and not only what are the limitations, what are the solutions for those limitations. So we're here today to talk about a transmission line. And so why is that important? New transmission over the years, since about 2006, has meant renewable wind farms in southwest Kansas. In 2010, we were not even one of the top 10 states at that time. I think it was Governor Sebelius wanted.
Carl,
Yes?
if you want to advance your slides, I think are we still on the same cover page here?
I'm on the slide. Is it not showing up for you guys?
Oh, okay, sorry. Nope, that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry, I did a little catch up.
All right. They were not one of the top 10 states, but our administration at that time, like I said, wanted Kansas. They saw the potential for the state of Kansas when it came to specifically wind at that time, but obviously there's been some solar built. But at that time, I was very much involved. I had started a transmission company called ITC Great Plains, and we went out and worked with the Kansas legislature, the administration, the Kansas Corporation Commission, and we came up with a couple projects in southwest Kansas that my company built called the KENA project, which started in Spearville, Kansas, so basically Dodge, went up by Hayes, and then ended up in Nebraska. So that allowed power, wind farms to be built in southwest Kansas, and that energy was transmitted clear up to Nebraska to load centers much more than the state of Kansas. After those transmission projects were built, all of a sudden the state of Kansas was in the top 10 nationally when it came to the amount of renewables built in the state of Kansas. And then came along congestion. So think of like Burlington. Right now you're a town of what, 4,000 people roughly. If you get to 20,000 people, your highways are going to need to be expanded, right? Because cars are going to be sitting at stoplights for hours and not moving. Same thing happens on the transmission grid. There's only so much ampacity in those wires until you've got to make it bigger or build new infrastructure. So when we did what, like I said, ITC Great Plains built from Spearville to Nebraska, we also built from Spearville to Wichita. So that took all that congestion. And with that being said, there was like 3,000 megawatts of new wind farms built in southwest Kansas. All that energy is trying to move east. So now we had congestion in central Kansas. So 2012, the Southwest Power Pool identified a lot of projects in central Kansas. And at that time, the state of Kansas became a top 5 state nationally when it came to the amount of wind on our system. Now, eastern Kansas, that congestion is in eastern Kansas. And projects like we're going to talk about today will improve the reliability and support all that wind trying to get to load centers. Because as we know, I'm a Kansan, all of you are Kansas. We don't have a lot of load. We don't have a lot of people in the state of Kansas. We have to export that energy from southwest Kansas and central Kansas, and now there's wind turbines around here to where there are load centers, Kansas City, St. Louis, the south, where they don't have the capacity to build wind. So what happened, I'm going to turn it over to Jim. The Southwest Power Pool identified a project called the Wolf Creek Blackberry, and I'm just going to quickly update you, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jim. Wolf Creek obviously is the substation out here outside the Wolf Creek Power Plant. That's the northern terminus of this transmission project. The southern terminus is a substation called Blackberry, which is basically,
I'm gonna just turn that one on.
okay, which is a substation that sits east of Pittsburgh. Basically, it's 2,000 feet into the state of Missouri, but for all intents and purposes, it's on the east side of Pittsburgh. So the transmission project that Jim's going to share and Kim and Leah's going to share their thoughts on and their process is called the Wolf Creek Blackberry, and those are the terminus parts. So at this time, Jim, you have the tape?
Sure, yeah. So Carl, my teams are caught up. So which slide are you on? Slide 4, the Wolf Creek project history? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so, yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, Carl, and thanks everyone for taking the time today to present this. So 2019, SPP looked at several different constraints and solutions. Carl went through the history of kind of the wind growth, and like you said, this is kind of moving out to the east side of where you see that congestion. So out of that study, they looked at what was the most, the best solution that can improve, transmission reliability and provide economic benefits to its members and customers. And this Wolf Creek Blackberry 345 kV project was identified as that solution, as the highest value and most cost effective. And so what they do then is they release this as a competitive request for proposals, and that came out in September of 2020. Ameren has started to propose on efforts like this, and it's a really good project. It's really interesting, looking at just different benefits, especially given the context of what we've seen in the past few just how critical transmission is to system reliability. So, you'll go to the next slide. So, what are we trying to do? We're proposing to build approximately 90 to 110 miles, subject to what that final approved route looks like. 345 kV transmission line from that Wolf Creek Station to Blackberry, like Carl said, just across the border in Missouri. The right of way that will be for this project is 150 feet in width. Based on the schedule that NPP provided to us, we're scheduled to be or plan to be in service January of 2026. So the competitive proposal will have for next year. They released this in September to give you approximately 180 days, not approximately exactly. So our proposal for this is due March 29th of this year. So, kind of, we'll go to the next slide then, Carl. So how do we look at when we're doing this is really the route of how we try to get from point A to point B. And we sort of look at some different criteria when we do that. And it's been kind of four buckets that we think about. It's opportunities, which are areas that we try to, that we think are, we try to take advantage of, that they're less impactful generally. We can follow those, we can be better. On the other side, there's kind of sensitivities, which are things we try to minimize impact or avoid. There's technical guidelines, which is, to be the engineering part of it, engineering code requirements that says you have to build it this way to ensure that it's, be operated safely and efficiently. And then statutory requirements, those statutory requirements can be either, generally there's a state, like the Kansas Commission that has the governance here, or sometimes for things like that. So really just trying to make sure that the routes, like the project that we designed, satisfied all statutory requirements. So, next slide, Phil. So kind of digging in a little bit on the routing criteria, on the opportunities side, you can see there's 5 things in there. Property lines, section lines, existing utility corridors are things you try to look for. We can parallel road, that makes sense, that's great. Through this area, there wasn't a lot of this, but we were able to get some things, like utility corridors and stuff. If you look on the sensitivity side, obviously it's a much larger list. The main things we look for, there's the environmental sensitivities like conservation areas, nature preserves, cultural resources, any sort of protected species that we try to identify and avoid. And the other things that tend to come up more on the sort of public side would be our proximity to homes or residences, other things like that. So there's a whole list of things that we look for, and when we do this routing effort, we try to minimize those. Pipelines and railroads, although they are large linear features, and kind of present their own sort of engineering complications. So while in some situations you can take advantage of something like that, it's not always, the 45 kV transmission next to that for a long distance. It does present some issues. So paralleling that is not always an opportunity. Sometimes it's actually sensitive. So next slide. So when we do this, we develop these route corridors. We develop, based on maximizing the opportunity, minimizing sensitivities, and following, like we said, the technical guidelines and statutory regulatory requirements. So that's what we did here. And kind of today, Kim, I'm going to turn over to Kim here in just a second. And she's just going to look at your county and any things that you may know in the county that might help us with the routes. Kim, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, just a second. Before we turn it to Kim, you might be thinking to yourselves, why would an entity in St. Louis, Missouri be interested in building a project in eastern Kansas? Similar to any RFP that you can put out for your county, you're going to build a new highway or a new bridge, you put an RFP out. The Southwest Power Pool has new rules that for projects this size and that the costs are going to be shared across the whole footprint of the Southwest Power Pool, they open it up to anybody in the United States that's qualified to build. And so that's the process we're going through, no different than what you would go through if you're building a new bridge. You'd send out an RFP and anybody who's qualified could submit a proposal. That's the same thing that we're talking about here, is Ameren, Southwest Power Pool is gonna put out this RFP at the end of this month. Ameren, as well as multiple other entities, Evergy, anybody else who wants to build this will put in their proposal to build. And then there'll be an independent panel that looks at all these responses and makes the ultimate decision that says, we're gonna choose Jesse Knight's company over Tom's company or whatever, based on all this criteria. And that process will run its course, but that's why we're here. It's not like Evergy's not good at building transmission. Evergy's very good at building transmission. They build a lot, but the rules for the Southwest Power Pool allows entities like Ameren Transmission to submit a response to this proposal.
Has the route already been established?
No, we're gonna talk about that now, and then I'll take any further questions. So I just wanted to give that background. You might be thinking, well, why somebody in St. Louis, this isn't their service territory. This is mainly in cooperative territory, Heartland and Four Rivers, and a little bit of West Ours. Why would we be interested? That's why we're interested. We have the opportunity to bid, just like, again, you know, what you guys do when you build a new bridge or a new highway, you put it out to bid.
You have a PowerPoint presentation? I don't mean to be lost, but during Jim's discussion, a lot of it, my hearing's not the best word, but most of it, I didn't understand none of it.
Okay, we will share it with you. I don't know.
Because we got capabilities to put everything up.
Oh, do you?
Not right now.
I wasn't aware of that. I guess
I apologize.
I should have made sure that, yeah, we could have presented this presentation.
I'm somewhat totally lost right now.
Well, maybe we could walk back there real quickly. I don't know. I'm up to your time, or we can jump right into where we're at.
You got your video. Can you just take your video?
A couple questions. One of them kind of goes along with Tom's. Now, this is 345 we're running from Wolf Creek to down to Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Okay, and they were talking about running parallel. They're gonna run parallel with the 69 going from Wolf Creek to Riverton for quite a ways, or are they going to go out somewhere by themselves?
Well, that's what Jim was talking about. Again, I understand he didn't have a presentation, but we're looking at maximizing the opportunities and minimizing. So, Jim, do you want to talk about what Stantec's done to date, or maybe Kim, to basically come up with the proposed routes that we're going to share today?
Yeah, I can touch on those for just a second. I mean, yeah, we know, I guess I don't know exactly what it is exactly we'd like to talk about, but if there is an opportunity that makes sense for us to parallel an existing corridor like that, or some of the other transmission lines that are here, we do try to take advantage of that. It's just that, you know, we're also trying to balance that with the sensitivities we talked about. So even though it might make a ton of sense to just, you know, try and push it all the way through there, there are things that might limit us from doing that. So, you know, we did have a company that essentially looked at the whole area. You know, they looked at point A to point B, but then they looked at what's the best way to get from there, and we identify a bunch of routes. We say, well, let's try this, and this, and then we start kind of digging into the data. We do look at, you know, just from a data standpoint, we look at publicly available information, like the layers that would be like wetlands or other publicly available information. Because the wetlands are environmental sensitive, for example. But, you know, also beyond that, we do quite a bit of field review of actually coming out and looking at where we were proposing routes. So actually Kim Gross did a lot of that. Some of our partners also looked at the site. So it wasn't just a desktop review that we looked at. We had actually come out and looked to see were there things that we didn't have captured in our GIS that somebody in the field would be able to see, like, oh wait, there's a home there that would show up in the imagery. Kind of today, we were kind of looking for, you know, from maybe you folks would be, what are the things the county is developing or that knows about project-wise that you may say, hey, we're, you know, good example, one of the counties we spoke with had a communication tower they were proposed. You know, that's something that if we know where it's going to go, we're just going to build that starting next year or something like that. That would be something you want to know, because that would absolutely influence the location of our route close to it. We may need to deviate it some. And make sure we include that now versus down, you know, once we go through the project, we submit all this with approvals, ideally, they'll get selected, and then it
Tom?
I'm sorry, Carl.
I can kind of hear him, but I don't think anybody
I
else
don't know what
can,
happened to
so.
the volume.
Yeah, I think if we was better prepared, we probably could have accommodated you better, for lack of better terminology right now.
We're about
But
to.
I get what you're saying, as far as, but.
They didn't send any, the lady I spoke to, she just said you guys want to come in and visit with them about transmission lines.
We'll send the presentation if I have to come back next Monday for follow-up questions. I'm only an hour away.
No, it's all right. I mean, I don't mean to put a damper on it. It's just, I don't think the rest of them can hear too well. I can hear it, but, but I get the gist of what you're trying to do, but basically what they're asking is, we got projects coming up to where it would interfere with the routing of their transmission line. So I don't know of anything. Maybe Wolf Creek could have a better idea than.
As far as I know, not that direction.
Yeah, so.
And so I'm just gonna kind of conclude real quick. Obviously, at the end of the day, we're just, Ameren, just like Evergy, is looking for county and local involvement collaboration. We're here early just to make sure, as you said, that, and as Jim alluded to, if you guys are proposing a new county sewage plant and, all of a sudden the route that we would like to propose into the solicitation response at the end of the month goes right through that would be a problem. We don't want to cause that conflict. So we're trying to get it earlier. Also, the other thing that's important about this, the RFP winner, again, Evergy's probably going to provide a bid, and everyone else that's into this business, that will not be decided until October. And then at that point will be a whole new process where there'll be collaboration, obviously, with the counties. But at the end of the day, there's going to be, open houses, there's going to be digital resources, there's going to be materials and community engagement. But at the end of the day, the Kansas Corporation Commission will decide the route. I'm sure Evergy has their routes. I'm sure, OG&E, if they're going to bid, has their route. Ameren has their routes. But think about it. Between Wolf Creek, Burlington, and Pittsburgh, that's 100 miles. There's 1,000 ways we could go. Mm-hmm. And everybody's doing their own research. But like I said, at the end of the day, we're all trying to get one route that we can fit a bid in. And then what will kick off is a Kansas Corporation Commission siting process, which there'll be open houses. Landowners within 660 feet of either side of the center line will be invited into these hearings and these open houses. So it will be a very involved public engagement, not only with the public and the landowners, but also with you guys as we proceed with this project. So just at a very simple level, the proposal is a 345 line from Burlington to Pittsburgh. We have our routing criteria that Jim went through, opportunities and sensitivities. The main reason we're here today, before we put in our bid, is we don't want to put in a project that, at the end of the day, we're going to have to add an additional 10 miles because you guys are building a new airport or extending your runway or whatever. We're trying to get ahead of that. So that's why we're here today. And like I said, we will, Leah will send out this presentation. And if there are questions, I'm an hour away. I can come next Monday to answer further questions. But today was really to be an introductory. That's why I wasn't real concerned about doing the presentation.
Okay.
Was an introductory to start the conversation. This is the first of hopefully many meetings. Ideally, my thing is hopefully Ameren wins the bid, but Evergy's going to put in, and they've got. So, like I said, that will not be decided until October, and then there will be a whole public engagement process and a whole lot of interaction between Ameren and the counties as we go forward. So,
well, again, I don't even think the cities, to my knowledge, have plans for sewer lagoons or anything like that I've heard about. So,
yeah.
Fredonia's the only one I know close by, and that's that way, not that way. So.
Correct. And that's one thing. Wolf Creek is requiring the line to exit to the north. So it's going to go north of Wolf Creek Power Plant and then obviously have to go east before it can go south. So we are required to come into that substation from the north because of Evergy's interconnection requirements. Jim, do you have any final words?
No, I apologize if you couldn't hear me. Carl might come back and do this again if you'd like, or we'll follow up with information that would be helpful and go from there.
Kim, I know you didn't get to say anything. Do you have any last words?
Yeah, my contact information is at the end of this proposal. So if you have any questions or concerns, once we get you a copy of this, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you all for your time.
And then Leah, your assignment is to provide to Angie, is that who we send it to?
Sure.
We know distribute it. Okay, Elia, do you have anything else to say?
Do you have Angie's email address?
Was it Kim that emailed me?
I think Kim might have it, Leah. So,
Okay, yes, I have it.
okay,
Okay.
all right. Other than that action item, is there anything, I mean, I'm here for any other questions too, that's pertaining to transmission. We can talk about the rolling blackouts if you want. Other than that,
So you're gonna have, you're gonna have to come in from the north side of Wolf Creek.
the substation.
And then you go east.
We could go west, but obviously that's adding more mileage, and every mile, there's significant cost, so that's gonna be, we're in a competitive situation, so in order to get to Pittsburgh, we're probably gonna go north and then east.
I figured that'd run over into the wind tires, the windmills a little bit.
Yeah.
There are probably routes that do that, but again, there's been a lot of work with our consultant. Kim's been out here driving it. We found a way to avoid that. Any other questions?
I don't have any, again, that's be Tim's area, nothing planned out there that you know of, so.
And,
Is there maps or any?
well, because it's competitive, we don't want to show maps, because, you know, there's other people who might have been here. You know, we would show our route and everybody would know, and then they could find ways to, you know, this is an open competitive solicitation, so.
Pre-bid information.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of vague, but.
I mean, Tim, I could come down and meet with you and we can go over some general ideas, but yeah, we didn't want to go.
I can understand how that works.
Any other questions? All right. Well, I so much appreciate your time, and after you get the presentation, if there are questions, Angie, you can get hold of me, and I can come down and one-on-one meetings or whatever, but yeah, we just want to, this is starting the public involvement for Cameron, and as we move forward with this project.
Like I said, if you want to come down again, let us know, and Brad will have everything set up for whatever you need.
It's been hit and miss. This is our 7th county I've done this, and every one of them's like, some of them have the internet, some don't, some have presentations, so it's hard to know, because like I said, you guys were the last ones, and I apologize, I probably should have been a little more upfront with the capabilities. All right, thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Carl. We're supposed to have Rhonda. With the post there, I can't see everybody in there.
No, Rhonda.
Carl, are you doing the FEMA thing? I thought that was Carl.
No, Wade's got it.
It's not really, it's more public awareness than it is anything else. Carl's aware of it, so he can, and it shouldn't take very long, so by the time.
That's fine.
You need to call again.
So each of you should have just been handed a packet. Maybe it's something you've seen before, maybe it's not. It just showed up, I think, within the last week. Is that?
Yeah, Tom, you got a copy of this last week I gave you.
So,
Yeah.
it was shown to me, and what it is a federal emergency management agency notice to Coffee County, dated February 9, 2021, in essence, and highly summarized. It's a notice that the appeal process starts in reference to the proposed floodplain determination that I think started right before Coffee County had the flood. And why that's important is because right now, based on my review and reading, the clock is ticking on the appeal period for either Coffee County or community members to initiate that appeal procedure. So I'll read from just some sections, and this is mainly so everybody's aware this is going on in the background, and there's no way to necessarily extend the appeal process itself. So reading from this document, these proposed flood hazard determinations, if finalized, will become the basis for the floodplain management measures that your community must adopt or show evidence of having in effect qualify or remain qualified for participation in the National Flood Insurance Program, which my understanding is Coffee County is not a part of. However, before any new or modified flood hazard information is effective for floodplain management purposes, FEMA will provide community officials and citizens an opportunity to appeal the proposed flood hazard information presented on the preliminary firm, capital FIRM and FIS report posted to the above referenced website, and that's contained within this document. It also talks about the appeal procedure that's outlined in the documentation that's provided, and that appeal period is 90 days. Moving on to page 2, states, it's important to note that the sole basis for such appeals is the possession of knowledge or information indicating that the proposed flood hazard determinations are scientifically or technically incorrect. The appeal data must be submitted to FEMA during the 90-day appeal period. Only appeals of the proposed flood hazard determination supported by scientific or technical data can be considered before FEMA makes its final flood hazard determination at the end of the 90-day appeal period. Note that the 90-day appeal period is statutory and cannot be extended. And then moving on, there's several sections I'm skipping over, but I'm trying to highlight at the very bottom of that page. If we do not receive an appeal or other formal comment from your community in its own name within 90 days of the second date of public notification, we will consolidate and review on their own merit such appeal data and comments from individuals that you may forward to us, and we will make such modifications to the proposed flood hazard information presented on the firm and in the FIS report as may be appropriate. If your community decides to appeal in its own name, all individuals' appeal data must be consolidated into one appeal by you, because in this event, we are required to deal only with the local government as representative of all local interests. So the most important part of that for me, other than, it's a significant thing, is there's a whole document that discusses and talks about what's considered knowledge or information indicating that the proposed flood hazard determinations are scientifically or technically incorrect. And that, if somebody is concerned or they want to initiate this appeal process, they need to be aware and look into that component, because you can't just come in from my reading and say, well, that's wrong. You have to have data to support it, and it has to meet their requirements. So this is just getting this out there in a way where everybody knows this is going on in the background. There's the document that came in, it's several pages long, kind of outlines what is occurring, the appeal process. There's a notice of what got put, at least is listed, that it was put in the paper. And on page 1, it says, we have published a notice of the proposed flood hazard determination in the Federal Register, and will publish a public notification concerning the appeal process in the Coffee County Republican on or about February 18th, 2021 and February 25th, 2021. There will also be a separate notice of the flood hazard determination and the quote flood hazard determination on the web portion of the FEMA website. So just to put people on notice that this is going on in the background, that's really all all I wanted to do. And maybe people already know, but this is another forum. This way it's on YouTube. It'll probably be in the paper.
So is the county, responsible for appealing for, say, the city of Burlington, or is the city of Burlington responsible for themselves? Because I do notice the new floodplain, city of Burlington, and that's what we're at here, is, was looking at it quite extensively. Because there were some things that came out, some things that went in, so.
Sure.
If, like I say, as far as appeals, if Coffee County has to appeal for the city of Burlington, then I need to get in touch with the zoning administrator there.
I'm not sure if they received one of these as well. I don't know who all received what.
I will contact him to see.
Is this ongoing from what we did 3 or 4 years ago? And I say, Amber, you're here. Did we do this down at Kelly Park Hall and 3 or 4 years ago for the whole county?
It was my first year here, so it'd been 2 years.
So is this an ongoing of that?
I missed the first half of Wade's presentation, I'm sorry.
Kara was shaking her head, yes.
Yeah,
So-
that's been the same thing.
So it's the same thing then, so there really isn't anything new to us.
We're just getting closer to it being finalized.
So yeah, they're
Oh, the
finalizing the
yes.
maps that they are laying out,
Okay.
taking some out, taking
Okay.
some in, so.
One of the things that went on in the background is we had the flood that occurred, and then I don't know, and maybe other people know more than I do about it, but when COVID hit, that may have impacted people's ability to communicate and express their thoughts on this part of it. I just wanted to make sure it didn't get lost in the background somewhere, and when we get to this end time period of the appeal, people say, well, I knew nothing about it. This just came into the county last week, and today is the first opportunity to bring it up, and I figured bringing it up in an open and public forum to the board and to the citizens of Coffee County to take that information and do whatever they want with, that's my goal. But I'm not gonna pretend to know anything about what these fine people, Carl, Amber, and Kara, know
We'll begin
a whole lot
looking
more
into
about.
it. I think I got it late last Friday, and I didn't know it was gonna be a part of it today.
I remember seeing the new map, if you will,
Right.
for the city of Burlington anyhow, where, like I say, some of it came out of the floodplain, some of it went in, so.
Right. We'll look at it and get an answer back to you, Tom.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Rhonda.
I'm here to talk about the redesign of the website.
Pictures are good. Oh, thank you. It's okay. Thank you.
As you can read over this, the main reason we want to do this redesign is because our contract is expiring on May 8th with Granicus. Civic Plus is a local Kansas company where Granicus is out of Illinois. And I don't know exactly where to start. I know we're going to save money on this because the annual cost is in further. I know you're starting to read some of this right now, so.
Yes.
Right now, our website's not ADA compliant, and that is the one big thing that they are going to make sure. We are going to have everybody that touches the website will get trained. It's ongoing training. It's going to be responsive for emergencies, because right now, if Amber has some emergency going on and she needs to change something on the website, and the website goes down, then this we have to turn in a work request. There's nobody to call. So they supply 24/7 workforce that we can tap into. It's super easy, and it's not going to be as laborious as a lot of departments. They don't update theirs because it takes too much time. And the way to do it, it's kind of confusing. So this will eventually help all the departments keep up their website better. And one big plus for Civic Plus is they have a free website redesign every 4 years. And if you look at the third page, you'll see that Granicus charged us, or we spent $75,000 so far with Granicus.
In 4 years,
Well, over the 5-year contract.
5-year contract. We're at 37 for 5-year contract with
Yeah.
company you're suggesting.
So it's gonna be cost or save money
All right.
to make the jump. And that's just not a one-time redesign, that's every 4 years. And then it's gonna be free.
I apologize for not being on the 10-year meeting when you had this on this, so. But it sounded very positive to me. Does anybody else that's with you have anything they want to add?
Karen? Amber?
I'm sorry. Anything you want to add?
Hey, Brad, did you sit in on this?
I sit in and it looks like a good deal to me. And it looked a lot simpler and I like the support. They did help the support.
Okay.
So I like the idea.
Basically, from everybody on the committee, they're wanting to move, they would like to see this move forward.
Yes.
Just to read straight out of the Wolf Creek Plan, the county's official government website is used to provide the current information. iPods and Leah Message will direct the people to tune to their local radio and TV stations and log on to the county website for detailed information. Over the last 2 emergencies that we've had, the flood and for COVID, we had times where the website was down.
Yeah.
And we couldn't post information that we really needed to get up. And Granicus doesn't have after hours tech support. Or weekends. So we had some issues with that. If we need to get information up on our website, we have to do it fast. And Granicus just wasn't cutting it for us. So.
No. Anybody got any questions?
And they're after hours, they were probably in a different time zone than we are too, right? So that was an hour that we lost no matter what.
Do I have your blessing to proceed through a contract with these, with Civic Plus?
You do with me. I don't know if anybody else has got any questions. I mean, if you form basically a committee and everybody's like on the same page and Brad's on board as well, which is our IT person, and he blesses it, he gets my blessing.
Bless it, Brad, bless it.
Well, it's like we're saving money.
And this is gonna be kind of a rush job too.
And
to get
saving
that.
money, yeah, and everything, so I don't see a problem with it.
Okay. Then, what?
So do you,
Bring a
we'll
motion
make a
next
motion
week,
to
or-
allow you to enter into a contract with Civic Plus? I'll make that motion.
All second?
10 seconds. Any further discussion?
Is there a proposed contract? Is that one that
I need to bring it to you.
Discussion, I don't have a problem with it, but I think once you get the contract, Wade needs to take a look at it, and then the contract needs to come to us before we actually
Approve it.
vote to move into an agreement with it.
That makes sense.
Okay,
I think maybe the motion should say to authorize her to work with
Civic Plus to move toward a contract.
So it looks like this is a true savings of $83,000 over the next 5 years.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's too much to pass up if they can provide the service.
Because there's the specialized, companies that just handle government websites. So not everybody goes through them, so they know what they're doing.
Well, I don't think we actually really need a motion right now.
Already said it.
I may, I already send mine to, and then when you get a contract, come back.
Okay,
We'll proceed.
okay,
But proceed, see you guys.
thank you very much.
Figure it out. That's the agenda. Roundtable. Wait.
Matt and I wanted to get, Orland asked a question earlier
Okay.
concerning exercises with Wolf Creek.
Okay.
I got it on the piece of paper. And what it was is last week, Wolf Creek and Putnam County received a letter from Andy Morgan dated 2/21. And what they've done is
Kansas Department
of Emergency Management.
Yeah. Okay.
And Angie Morgan requested that FEMA, that we to appeal not doing an exercise in 2021. We haven't heard back yet from FEMA as far as the exercise and the appeal. And it's due to the COVID response and their lack of resources to be able to support it. We just want to make sure and bring that before so Arlen knows about the exercise.
Yep, so they requested an exemption from 2021, which would move it into 2022. So it wouldn't be a non-completion of it. Basically, be extending that window, you get a total of 35, 36 months in between your exercises.
Okay.
So we'd still be in that window, but we'd be moving it from calendar 2021 to 2022, potentially. So there's no approval from FEMA yet. We're still planning on.
It would just be somewhat early in 2022 then.
Yeah, we'd have to negotiate with FEMA and the NRC on what actually, obviously, the county and the state and all the other vested participants of where to put it, if that was the case. But, so it's kind of up in the air. FEMA has approved a bunch of these, but they're also working on a lot of remote inspection capabilities to where they can do it. So it's kind of 50-50. Some plants are still doing them. Some plants are requesting, or some states and plants are requesting to move them. So the state of Kansas, due to COVID, requested an exemption for 2021. But it has not been approved. I think last time they put a letter in, it took them about six weeks or more to actually get a response from FEMA. So I would expect May timeframe, we might know what FEMA's response is.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think Wade had something, but he had to exit. So Angie?
Yes, I have. Okay. So last week, on Wednesday, we talked about the salary study, or the salary worksheet and getting that information out to department heads and that stuff. As I started working that chart in our computer system and getting it ready to send to CIC, I recognized there were some things that still needed to be corrected. So I contacted Lisa and she's working on finalizing that spreadsheet. There's also a couple of departments she's waiting on information from that had some new changes to their couple of employees in their departments, and so she was working on that, maybe going to get it back to me this afternoon to where we could get that information out to department heads. So it's a good thing we kind of held off last week. They're, sending it right away. So, but as soon as we get that from her, we'll start letting department heads have that information, and then they can work their CP5s and get it back to us so we can take a look at it and get the ball rolling. So.
Okay.
And the other thing is that I'm temporarily having to close my office or have limited access. I have an entire office out at the moment. So for this disease containment, so out of our control. So we'll still continue to work for the public and provide all the access we can through phone and email and whatever else we can do. So try to keep business going. So.
How long will you be shut down, Andy?
Well, so far I'm still here, so I through this week and maybe part of next, depending on how and when people can start coming back. So I just want to keep, because I don't know if I don't know what might happen with me either. So far, but I'm just going to try to keep minimal people from coming in, and I'll handle the mail myself and do all of that. So
all your staff is out?
yes. I'm actually trying to see if one can do a little bit of work from home. I think she can, and maybe another one too, but we're kind of limited, so, but we'll do the best we can to keep things going. Thanks for everyone's understanding also, I want to say.
Yes.
It's out of our control.
That's what it is on that. Still waiting on Wade, Tim.
Nothing today.
You got anything around here?
The only thing, what's the status on the fence viewing? You'll have it set up for next week, the 8th.
That's
And the outage doesn't start until after that, if that one party wanted to wait. You know, we are 3.5 months now. Now we're looking at May. To me, that's stretching it out further than what it should be, but that's just my, it sounded like, you know, that the outage was not going to affect that one family until after March 8th. So I couldn't figure out why they couldn't meet and get it over with.
He's asking about the fence viewing. I don't remember the exact dates via email that I received, but the one party can do that. Outage can't make it.
Would not be available to do the fence viewing until February, or until Friday, May 28th. Wolf Creek outage ends May 9th.
It's the first communications we had.
They
They didn't start to work until March the 12th or 13th, so why couldn't they do it the 8th?
Well, that's, yeah, exactly.
So they had 4 or 5 days there that they didn't start their outage project, or their responsibilities out there.
Right.
So right now, we don't have any specific reason why they can't do it the 8th.
Yeah, the outage ends.
I know we gotta work with 2 parties, but we also, my opinion, shouldn't put it off another 3 months. Because right now, we don't have a good reason why it has to be put off. That was from the first email we had. Then there was a second email that you just read.
I mean, the effort is to coordinate with the property owner, but I think going into May, unless something can be provided to the board to demonstrate that that cannot occur, I mean, I don't know. It got brought to me and I said, it's gonna have to come to the board, and the board's gonna have to have a discussion. And figure out what latitude the board will allow. And, you know, you can try to work with them and potentially reply and say, we're not going today. So we're gonna have to have a date sooner.
Well, I mean, the outage doesn't start, the outage starts after we wanted to fence view next Monday.
In the first email we had,
Yeah.
their responsibilities for the plant was after March 8th.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we got the second email a few days later, but, so that,
That the outage didn't get over with till May 9th. And then they want 20 days past that.
to me, they're just
But extending.
doing what they can to push it back. To
Well,
me, the March 8th should be a workable day for them. They didn't give any reason why it couldn't work.
But they're not here to respond, so I don't wanna let that go too far.
Yes.
They need to be someone who is, being asked to respond to something on behalf of the county. I kind of feel like if something is gonna be, statements are gonna be made that they're dragging it out, as my word I'm using, then they should be allowed to be here to respond to that, because they may have a legitimate reason, or they may not. So my suggestion would be potentially try to invite them in next week, Whether they can appear by video or phone, if that's the only way they can come in and try to figure something out so this can get move forward.
Yeah.
That would be my suggestion. That way their voice is heard, and if they come in and they give a good reason, you get to hear it. If they don't, then you get to make a decision. Say, here's when it's gonna be and why.
Well, I guess it's already scheduled for next week, so if they want to come in and present their case to us before, then we can always cancel it if that's the deal, but, unless they come in and present a case or contact you or something with a case, I would say we plan on going on with it. So I kind of agree with you, yeah, but we need to let them, if they have a case they want to present, they have that right to do that, so. But we would need to contact them and tell them that.
Is that our office, your office?
I think Donna's been the one that's been communicating with the parties, so.
Okay.
So,
Does anybody got anything they want to add to that?
I think they need to come in.
okay, so it's not on the table, it's not scheduled. I sent out an email saying everything was on hold for the fence viewing and spoke to both parties until it came to the commission for you guys to make a decision. So there isn't actually a fence viewing scheduled for March 8th.
So it's, yeah, okay, it's
on
potentially
hold.
scheduled for next Monday, potentially.
Okay.
But it's on hold right now because it needed to come to you guys since they said they couldn't.
But it sounds like our.
We were planning on next week though.
Right.
Were we not? Okay.
You were.
That's the consensus. That we were planning on next week, but.
But that's off the table now since Wade said they need to have the opportunity to explain.
So I guess I retract and kind of what I said about being on.
So I think, going back to what I said, they need to be given the opportunity to, what days work, and going out to the end of May is not. My understanding is that they're going to work with the commission, so meeting somewhere in the middle. That maybe they have some other ideas and proposals.
Well, it sounds like the consensus is to have them come in and visit with us.
Just basically let them know that it's stretching out that long.
I guess myself, it doesn't have to be on a Monday, but it has to be on a day that Jesse and Wade also can work with it, so.
If they can do it this week, I'm good for this week, it don't matter.
Yeah,
Both parties.
March 8th was technically a target date.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
It's gonna be good weather this week, be good week to get out.
Yeah, we will. So if they're available this
Fine for
week.
that. I'm fine with that too.
What about a Saturday even?
For what?
A Saturday.
I don't care. I mean, if you get into the outage, whoever's not gonna have a weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, if a person can get it done before the outage starts, that's gonna be the best case for everybody.
I think that should be our target. It's already been 3.5 months, and they knew the date was coming.
That'd be the message to convey, and late May is not.
We need to get it done
We
before.
need to
the
get it
outage
done before
starts.
then, so if they could do it any day this week, it'd be.
I have a meeting tomorrow, but tomorrow afternoon, other than that, I've got all week.
Wade's tied up on Tuesdays anyway.
Yes, true.
I've got court Tuesday, court Thursday, and then there's my calendar's kind of hit or miss because I meet with victims, and then just kind of other things going on, but that's why I have an advance notice and being able to pick a date, get it written in the calendar so it's firmly planted, and then that takes precedence over anything else. That's sort of the goal here, but.
Well, we'd still like to shoot for March 8th then. I mean.
I also had asked them, told them that they could also send a representative to represent them if they'd like to.
We'll see what kind of response we get out of the May 29th. Isn't gonna work. We need to do it sooner than later and see what we get coming back from that, I guess.
Wade, would you be available Wednesday? You said, I know you have,
Tuesday.
was you saying that was not a, Tuesdays
Wednesdays,
and Thursdays weren't working?
Wednesdays I'm usually free, but I need to look at the calendar.
Right.
Because I'll schedule other things because I know I won't be in court.
And Friday, you might be free at a certain time.
I'd like to.
Well, I'm free, and I don't know what Jesse is, but if they, they keep saying 29th, if we can get worked in this week, just let me know.
And Jesse, you're gonna be,
Towards the end of the month, it's in the air. I'm just gonna have to wing it. So, end of the month, could possibly be gone, so I just don't know yet.
But you okay this week?
I'm okay this week unless we have another week like last week.
Anything else?
The only thing I had marked down for next week, we was gonna start reviewing some of the benefit package for our employees.
Yes.
And we was gonna look at that longevity as starting out next week, so. And that's all.
John has asked me about, sheriff's invoice from Guardian Angels for $24.99.80. He said those are personal safety devices for each officer. Personal safety devices for each officer.
That was the first
I
page.
remember seeing an invoice like that come on several times, so, and that's what it was.
There were two receipts there that didn't have clarification on what it was for, so.
GA Guardian Angels.
Other than that, it looked like everything was fine.
Other than that, Don brought up what I was gonna bring up about the benefits package study. Did you hear anything from Goldberg on, I mean, cause I don't know, with Angie's situation up there, in her office, I think the sooner we get something installed in our HVAC system, the better. I mean,
I'm with you.
Yeah, I'm just waiting on a quote back from Modern Air, so.
Okay, oh, that's right, okay. So, I mean, not to,
I've been playing phone tag with Goldberg. I do believe he has been in contact with the sheriff and indicated he was gonna be in contact with me. He may have tried to call while I was here this morning, but as soon as I have an answer, I'll bring it to you.
I forgot she was waiting on proposal.
Yeah.
Those are proceeding ahead on that one. It's a plus, I think, for everyone, so entire public as well as our employees, so.
And we continue to sanitize in the office completely every day too, but
Other than that, same benefits package we're gonna discuss next week. It's gonna be on the agenda, correct?
correct, it's already there.
Okay. All right. That'd be all I'd have. We skipped you because you were out, but we'll do Donna and then come back to you, I assume, if that's okay.
so just to clarify on fence viewing, Bob and Jesse are both free to do this week, but I need to check with Wade on his schedule. And if that won't work for them, then they need to get on the agenda and come and visit with you guys. Is that,
Or if they can't come, they need to be able to provide something to the board. And I don't think it would be, the board gets to make this decision, but if they have something going on, whether it be employment or otherwise, and they need to appear by phone, I don't think that would be, you just want an answer. When are they available and what's the timeline? So if you're okay with a phone appearance under that, because it is sort of it's a week away, and it's just to establish a date and a time for this venue. Good with that?
Mm-hmm. You good with that, Don?
yes,
Okay. That it?
that's it.
Okay, you're back to you, Wade.
All right. So I wasn't in here when Angie was talking about roundtable, so if I'm repetitive, then I apologize, but for the salary study side of things, there's hopefully today or within the next day or two, there will be a spreadsheet that gets sent out that has everybody in the county, all the employees, where Lisa from McGrath suggests that each employee be placed within the salary structure, as well as includes the 30-cent adjustment and so on and so forth. So I had my spreadsheet that I had created based off of the information that I had, and I sent that to Angie. There was another spreadsheet to sort of, were a little bit in conflict with each other. And then I've been in contact with Lisa. She actually got a hold of me over the weekend and said she is finalizing based on the 30 cents, because that sort of changed what she had originally done. And I don't know all those dynamics, but it's going to be out, and the data will be provided, and then go from there. So it is in the works. It's not being delayed. Just that 30 cents changed things somewhat. So hopefully by next week there'll be an update. That data dump will be provided to Angie so it can get to the software company and they can figure out how to engineer what they need to do to modify what the county currently has. Any questions on that?
No, I get it.
So what in turn that has done is delayed the HR audit final documents just a tad, because the focus had to turn to correcting that and getting that updated. So just so you can temper your expectations, I guess, so to speak. With that in mind, I'll be requesting 2 executive sessions. The first one, request a motion for the commission to recess into executive session, consultation with the county counselor to discuss pending county litigation, to discuss those matters as being deemed privileged under the attorney-client relationship exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act, KSA 754319B, to myself, the commission, and because I get kind of drawn 15 minutes.
Discuss you and the commission.
Correct.
So moved. That was moved.
All second.
And seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We're going to 11:30, come out to 11:45.
Need some coffee?
Yeah.
Have at it.
are they gonna be out?
15 minutes till 11:45.
We are back. Wade has something else for us?
Yep, just, one more executive session request. A motion for board to recess into executive session for consultation with county counselor to provide, legal advice regarding county policy for matters that if it were discussed in an open session, would be deemed privileged under the attorney-client relationship exceptions of the Kansas Open Meetings Act. Again, KSA 7543-19B2. Myself and the board for 15 minutes again. That should cover everything I need to discuss today.
I'll make that motion. Second. All in favor? Aye. We'll go in at 11:50, come out at 12:05.
Is he not?
Yeah, he said.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, trigger, Bob.
Sure. Send that down to Tim. I know Tim would take it. Thank you, Don.
That's all I'm not here for, is over here.
We'll be right back. Anything else, Wade?
Nope, for today, that's a wrap.
Okay. Anybody have anything else they wish to share at this time?
We may have a special issue check for an employee that, I guess, at the beginning of February, you guys approved a raise for, one. And, yeah, and it didn't go over, so we have to check it out, and we'll probably have to give them a special issue check.
But all you gotta do is issue a separate
The
check
difference.
or add a small one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure, it'll be taken care of.
Yeah, we will. Thank you. That's it.
None? We'll adjourn at 12:07.
Lunch is on you. I don't care. You got a good cook. I think we don't need out.
What we can provide, I just seen it.
Yeah, I know. How big is that?
I could gather what they were referring to.
Actually,
I couldn't understand.
you want, yeah, you want video.
I can't believe that they, when they go to the cat, why don't they ask for it?
I think I'll eat my cookie on the road.
What's that?
That's short of it.
That's poor leadership on their part.
I'm trying to cut you short, but it's about
It was a waste of time for us and him.
All right, everybody have a good, safe week. You too. Stay healthy.
Have a good one, guys.
Brad's gonna have to, you just have to shut that off.
Oh.
turned off. It says